Have you ever felt the sting of being ignored? The kind that crawls under your skin and sits in your chest like a heavy stone. Someone you cared for deeply or even admired turns their back on you, not with a dramatic exit, but with a cold, dismissive silence. It leaves you questioning your worth, doesn't it? It feels unfair, almost cruel, like they're playing a game where the only rule is to make you dance for scraps of their attention. Why does it hurt so much? And more importantly, how do you take that pain and turn it into power? Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Their silence isn't about strength, it's about insecurity. But they've convinced you otherwise. They want you to believe that their rejection holds power, that their indifference defines your value. The world has sold us this lie, hasn't it? The idea that the one who cares less always holds the upper hand. But what if I told you that Stoicism, a philosophy grounded in resilience and emotional self-mastery, teaches us something different? What if I told you that your silence could be the most powerful response of all? In this article, we're going to dismantle the lies they've told you about silence and rebuild your understanding from the ground up. You'll learn not just how to rise above their games, but how to claim the strength they never expected you to find. And as you read, I want you to ask yourself, am I ready to reclaim my power? Let's start by exposing the illusion they've created, the false power they hold over you. 1. The illusion of power in ignoring you. Why do they ignore you? Is it because they're strong, confident, unbothered by your presence? That's what they'd like you to believe. They sit there basking in their silence, pretending they're royalty, perched high on some invisible throne. They watch your pain as if it's a form of entertainment, convinced that the sting of their indifference makes them untouchable. But let's pause for a moment and ask the question no one dares to. If they were truly powerful, would they need to make you feel small? Real power doesn't need to manipulate. True confidence doesn't thrive on silence meant to wound others. Think about it. The greatest leaders, the ones we admire in history or even in Stoicism, aren't those who ignore and belittle. They are the ones who inspire, guide, and act with integrity. So why would you worship someone who hides behind silence, as if rejection is a crown? Their silence isn't strength, it's fear wrapped in arrogance. Here's the secret they don't want you to know. They ignore you because they're terrified. Terrified of losing control, terrified of vulnerability, terrified of what it means to actually connect with someone on a deeper level. Because connection, real connection, requires effort. It requires seeing someone as an equal, not a pawn in some self-serving game. And that scares them. Picture this. A child playing hide and seek, burying their face in their hands, thinking they've disappeared. That's them. They think by ignoring you, they're invisible, untouchable. They convince themselves that their silence is a shield, protecting them from the responsibility of real intimacy. But shields aren't symbols of power, they're tools of defense. What they're defending against is the truth. The truth that without you, your energy, your effort, your devotion, they are nothing more than a hollow figure sitting on a plastic throne. Do you see it now? Their silence is not a reflection of your inadequacy, but a mirror of their fear. They don't ignore you because they're too good for you. They ignore you because they know, deep down, they don't deserve you. And yet they've convinced you otherwise. They've sold you the lie that their indifference means something about your value. And you, being the kind and hopeful person you are, have believed it. But let me ask you this. What if you stopped believing? What if, instead of questioning your worth, you started questioning their motives? What if, instead of chasing their approval, you turned your back and reclaimed your dignity? Because here's the beauty of silence. It's a power they can't predict. When you go silent, when you refuse to feed their ego with your tears and your pleas, you shatter the illusion. Suddenly, their throne starts to look less like gold and more like the fragile plastic it's always been. So what do you do next? You stop letting their silence define you. You stop playing their game. You recognize that their rejection says nothing about your worth and everything about their inability to rise to your level. And then you hit them with silence of your own. Not out of revenge, Because Stoicism teaches us that revenge is a waste of energy, but out of self-respect. You go silent to protect your peace, to reclaim the energy you've poured into someone who never deserved it. And in that silence, you'll find something they never expected you to discover: yourself. Are you ready to take that first step? To let their silence fade into the background as you step into the spotlight of your own life? If so, say it with me. My silence is my power. Let it echo in your mind, louder than their rejection, louder than their games. And as you hold on to that truth, know this: you're not alone. You're part of a movement of strong, resilient souls who have chosen to rise above the noise. This is only the beginning. Let's keep going. There's so much more to uncover. 2. Your silence is the real crown. Let's talk about your silence. The silence they once mocked. The silence they thought was weakness. They were so sure that ignoring you was the ultimate move, their grand strategy to make you question yourself, to make you chase after them. Oh, how arrogant they must feel, thinking your worth hinges on their presence. But let me tell you something that might shake you to your core. Your silence is the real crown. It's not their games, not their indifference, not their so-called power. Your silence is where the real strength lies. Think about it. Who holds the power in a storm? Is it the person running around in a panic, screaming to be heard? Or is it the storm itself, calm yet commanding, rolling across the sky with a force no one can ignore? That's you. Your silence is not submission, it's sovereignty. When you refuse to react, when you resist the urge to defend yourself, explain yourself, or beg for their attention, you are choosing dignity over desperation. And that choice, that silence, becomes your crown. But why does silence carry so much power? Let's dive into it. When you go silent, you create a void, a space they can't fill, control, or predict. You disrupt their game entirely. They thrive on your reaction, don't they? They live for the text you send, the phone call you make, the way you twist yourself into knots trying to fix whatever they've broken. It makes them feel important. It feeds their ego, because as long as you're reacting, you're telling them you matter to me. But when you stop, when you go quiet and walk away, suddenly the stage they built for themselves goes dark. The spotlight turns off, and they're left standing there, exposed, realizing just how empty their power really is. They thought they were the king or queen of the situation, didn't they? Sitting on their little throne of silence, staring down at you with that smug look. But here's the truth. Real kings and queens don't need to tear others down to feel strong. They don't sit in silence, hoping someone will beg for their attention. Real royalty commands respect through presence, not manipulation. And that's the difference between them and you. You see, they tried to reduce you to nothing, a pawn, a puppet, but you were never small. They underestimated you. They thought silence would break you, but all it's done is make you stronger. It's given you space to see the truth. Their power was never real. It was a show, a performance, and you were the audience keeping it alive. But now, you've left the building. You've taken back your power, and suddenly their throne is nothing more than an empty chair. So what happens next? They panic. They feel the void you've left behind, and it terrifies them. Why? Because your silence makes them question their own worth. It forces them to sit alone in the mess they created. The one thing they thought they could control, your attention, is now gone. And without it, they're lost. Let me ask you something. Why would you ever go back to being their source of validation? Why would you ever chase someone who treats your love like spare change? You're not a beggar. You're not desperate. You are the storm. You are the crown. And it's time you remembered that. Here's the part they never saw coming. Your silence isn't about them. It's about you. It's your declaration to the world that you are no longer handing your power over to someone who doesn't deserve it. It's you choosing peace over chaos. It's you saying, I know my worth and I refuse to waste it. Do you realize how strong that makes you? How rare that is in a world full of people willing to settle for crumbs of attention. So here's what I want you to do right now. If this message is hitting home, if you feel the truth in these words stirring something inside you, I want you to take action. Smash that like button and comment number 1 below to show that you're ready to take back your crown. Show the world you're done playing games. Let your silence speak louder than their indifference. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and join this community of powerful, resilient souls who are learning to rise above the noise. Because this isn't just a video, it's a movement. A movement of people who refuse to settle, who refuse to chase, who are reclaiming their power one silent moment at a time. They think your silence is weakness, but they're wrong. It's your armor, it's your crown. And when you wear it proudly, when you hold on to it with confidence, there's nothing they can do to touch you. So, are you ready? Ready to silence their games and rise above it all? I know you are. I can feel it. That fire in your chest, that ache in your heart, it's not pain. It's power waiting to be unleashed. Say it with me. My silence is my power. Own it. Write it in the comments. Let it echo through their silence and remind them that you are no longer the person they thought they could control. This is your time. This is your rise. And I promise you, the silence you hold now will speak volumes in ways they never expected. Stay with me, we're just getting started. 3. Breaking the strings of their control. Let's pull back the curtain on this little game they've been playing. For so long, you've been the one dancing to their tune. Haven't you? They tug at a string, cold silence here, a little indifference there, and suddenly, you're scrambling. A text, a call, a desperate question. Did I do something wrong? Why are you ignoring me? You bend, you break, you contort yourself in ways you never thought possible, all for the smallest scraps of attention. And each time they get a reaction out of you, their smile widens. Why? Because in their mind, you're the puppet and they're the puppeteer. But what happens when you stop dancing? What happens when you let the strings go slack, refusing to move for their entertainment? Picture it. The puppet they thought they controlled suddenly stills, lifeless, quiet, and the stage they were so proud of goes dark. No applause, no reaction, just silence. They panic. Because here's the truth they can't admit to themselves. They only ever held power because you let them. They weren't strong. They weren't special. The strings they pulled were made of your emotions, your love, your need to be seen. It wasn't their strength that kept you attached, it was your hope. You hoped that maybe if you gave more, they'd finally see your worth. Maybe if you tried harder, they'd finally care. But here's the kicker, they saw you. They knew your worth. They just chose to take it for granted. Does that sting? It should. Because realizing you've been holding the strings all along can feel like a betrayal of yourself. You gave them too much power. You made their attention the currency by which you measured your own value. But let me ask you this. Why would you ever hand someone else the pen to write your story? Why would you let someone who couldn't care less decide your worth for you? It's time to break the strings. Not because you want to punish them, but because you deserve better. You deserve freedom from their control, from the games, from the endless cycle of giving and getting nothing in return. Do you feel that? That tightness in your chest? That's not heartbreak, it's the weight of the strings they've attached to you. Strings you didn't even realize were there, but you're about to cut them. Here's what they don't see coming. Your silence is the blade. Each moment you refuse to react, each time you hold back from giving them the satisfaction of your attention, you're slicing through the strings they thought would hold you forever. You're breaking free, one silent second at a time. You see, their control is an illusion. They think ignoring you is power, but in reality, it's weakness in disguise. Real strength lies in connection, in vulnerability, in showing up for someone and offering them something real. But they can't do that, can they? They hide behind their silence because it's easier than facing their own emptiness. Because if they had to step off the stage and meet you as an equal, they wouldn't know how to stand. So they pull the strings. They play the games. And yet, here you are, still standing. What do you see what that means? They never had power over you. They just distracted you from seeing your own. Every time you reacted, you handed them a piece of yourself. But now that you're silent, now that you've stopped feeding their ego, they're left with nothing but their own reflection. And that terrifies them. Let me ask you something. What does it feel like to hold your ground, to let their silence hang in the air and refuse to fill it with your desperation? It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Silence has a weight to it. It sits heavy in your chest. But here's what you need to remember. That weight isn't punishment, it's transformation. It's you breaking free from the cycle. It's you learning to stand tall without anyone else holding you up. The moment you stop reacting is the moment you take your power back. Picture it. The strings fall away. The stage is empty. And you step off and walk away. No more games, no more begging for attention, just freedom. And what about them? Oh, they'll notice. Trust me, they'll notice. When the puppet stops dancing, the puppeteer is forced to face the truth. Without you, there's no show. Their control was never real. It was borrowed from you. And when you take it back, they're left with nothing but an empty stage and the echoes of their own silence. But here's the best part. You're not walking away empty-handed. You're leaving with your dignity, your strength, and your peace. And do you know how rare that is? In a world where everyone is screaming to be heard, choosing silence is an act of defiance. It's a declaration that says, I will not be controlled. I will not be reduced. I will not play this game anymore. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to break the strings? Are you ready to stop being a puppet in their little show and start living for yourself? It's not easy. Silence takes courage. But the freedom that comes with it, oh, it's worth every uncomfortable second. Because here's the truth. When you stop reacting, when you cut the strings and walk away, you become untouchable. They can pull, they can tug, they can scream in frustration, but it won't matter. You're free. And the best part, while they're standing there lost in the silence they created, you're already moving forward. You're already building a life so full, so strong, that their absence feels like a blessing. That's the power of silence. That's the power of breaking free. Stay with me, because we're not done yet. There's so much more to uncover. And trust me, the storm you're becoming is only just beginning. 4. The fragile throne they sit on. Let's get real about the throne they think they're sitting on. They act like royalty, don't they? Head held high, silence dripping with arrogance, and every move carefully designed to keep you in your place. They look down at you from what seems like an impossible height, as if they've earned their position, as if their indifference is proof of their superiority. But let me ask you this. What is that throne really made of? Is it gold? Is it strong, unshakable, something they built with their own merit? No, my friend. Their throne is fragile. It's not even real. It's made of the pieces of yourself that you gave to them, your love, your time, your energy. Every moment you spent trying to make them see your worth, every effort you made to lift them higher, became the foundation they're standing on now. And here's the brutal truth. They didn't even earn it. Think about it. When someone truly deserves to be called royalty, their actions reflect it. Real royalty lifts others up. They inspire respect and admiration through kindness, strength, and integrity. But what have they done? They've taken everything you offered and used it to build a pedestal for themselves, all while leaving you in the shadows. That's not royalty, that's manipulation. And the worst part, you've been bowing to a throne made of your own sacrifices. Let me ask you another question. Why would you worship someone who wouldn't even bend down to pick you up if you fell? Because that's the kind of person you've been dealing with. Someone who thrives on your devotion, your effort, and your belief in them, but who gives you nothing in return. They sit there, so smug, as if they deserve the crown. But the moment you stop supporting them, the moment you pull back all the love and energy you've been pouring into them, that throne of theirs starts to crack. It's fragile, you see. It's built on lies and arrogance, and most importantly, it's built on you. They didn't climb to that height on their own. They stepped on your shoulders to get there. Every late night text you sent, every time you bent over backward to make them happy, every piece of yourself you gave without expecting anything in return. It all became the bricks and mortar holding up their fragile little kingdom. But what happens when you take those pieces back? What happens when you stop playing the role of their servant and start reclaiming your power? Their throne collapses. Picture this: a shimmering castle in the distance, tall and imposing. From far away, it looks like it's made of gold, doesn't it? But as you get closer, you start to see the cracks, the peeling paint, the hollow foundation. That's their throne. It only looks powerful because you're still standing too far away to see it for what it really is. But once you step back, once you stop feeding their illusion, the whole thing crumbles. And here's the twist they never expected. You're the fire. You've been holding it back, afraid of what might happen if you let it burn. But now it's time. Burn that throne to the ground. Take back every ounce of love, every moment of effort, every piece of yourself that you gave to someone who didn't deserve it. Let it all go up in flames, because here's the truth they never wanted you to see. You don't need their throne. You're the crown. They think ignoring you is power, but it's not. It's fear. They think their silence keeps them above you, but it doesn't. It's a mask, a way of hiding their own insecurities. And the moment you stop worshiping their throne, the moment you stop playing into their games, you'll see them for what they truly are. Not kings or queens, not strong or untouchable, just people, ordinary, flawed, and terrified of losing the control they never really had. But here's the real question. Are you ready to stop bowing? Are you ready to stop giving your energy to someone who doesn't see its value? It's not easy, is it? The idea of letting go feels heavy, like losing something that once meant everything to you. But let me remind you of this. You're not losing anything. You're taking back what was yours all along. And when you do, when you let that fragile throne crumble and rise from the ashes, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a long time: freedom. Freedom from their games. Freedom from the cycle of giving and getting nothing in return. Freedom to build something real, something strong, something worthy of your love and effort. So here's what I want you to do right now. If this is resonating with you, if you can feel the truth of these words sinking into your soul, I want you to take a small but powerful step. Smash that like button and comment number 1 to let the world know you're ready to rise. You're ready to burn their throne and reclaim your crown. And don't stop there. Hit that subscribe button and join this movement of strong, resilient souls who are done bowing to fragile thrones. This isn't just a video, it's a community. A place where we rise together, where we support each other, and where we learn to claim the power we've had all along. Because here's the truth: their throne was never real, but your crown, your strength, your silence, that's the stuff of legends. So take your crown, my friend, wear it proudly, and let their silence echo as you rise above it all. Stay with me, because there's so much more to uncover. We're not done yet. The storm you're becoming is just getting started. 5. Your silence is for you, not them. There's a question you might be asking yourself, one that lingers like an echo in your mind. What does my silence mean to them? It's tempting, isn't it? To wonder if your absence is making them miss you, if it's rattling their confidence, if it's forcing them to realize what they've lost. But let me tell you something you need to hear, something that might sting at first but will set you free. Your silence isn't for them, it's for you. Think about it. How much of your life have you spent tailoring your actions to someone else's expectations? How often have you agonized over every word, every gesture, every decision, hoping it would be enough to make them stay, to make them care? And what did it get you? Pain, confusion, sleepless nights staring at your phone, waiting for a text that never came. That's the cycle you've been trapped in. Always giving, always hoping, always wondering if the next move will be the one that finally makes them see your worth. But silence breaks the cycle. It's not a weapon, it's a shield. It's not about hurting them, it's about healing you. When you go silent, you're not playing their game anymore. You're stepping off the board entirely. You're refusing to pour any more of your energy into someone who has done nothing but drain it from you. And that choice, that refusal, is where your power lies. Let's get something straight. This isn't about revenge. Stoicism teaches us that revenge is a hollow pursuit. a distraction that keeps us chained to the very people and situations we're trying to rise above. Silence isn't about making them miss you. It's about giving yourself the space to remember who you are without them. It's about creating room in your life for peace, for growth, for something better than the chaos they brought into your world. But let me ask you this. Why does silence feel so hard? Why does it feel like a weight pressing down on your chest, making you doubt every step you take? It's because silence forces you to confront yourself. It strips away the noise, the distractions, the endless attempts to fix something that was never your responsibility to fix. It leaves you face to face with your own reflection, and that can be terrifying. But it's also the first step toward freedom. In the silence, you'll hear the thoughts you've been avoiding, the fears, the doubts, the pain. But you'll also hear something else, something quieter but infinitely more powerful. You'll hear your own voice, the one that's been drowned out by their games and manipulations, the one that's been whispering all along, "You deserve better. You're worth more than this." Here's the truth. As long as you're focused on what your silence means to them, you're still giving them power. You're still allowing them to take up space in your mind, to dictate your thoughts and your actions. But the moment you let go of that question, the moment you stop caring about whether they notice your silence or miss your presence, you take that power back. And do you know what happens when you do? You start to see their silence for what it really is. Their silence isn't strength. It's avoidance. It's a refusal to face the truth about themselves, about you, about the damage they've caused. It's a defense mechanism, a way of pretending they're unbothered when deep down they're running scared. Because here's the reality. If they were truly confident, truly secure in themselves, they wouldn't need to play games with your heart. They wouldn't need to keep you guessing, keep you chasing, keep you on the edge of your seat, wondering where you stand. But this isn't about them anymore. It's about you. It's about the life you're building in the silence. Every moment you hold it, every second you resist the urge to reach out, you're reclaiming a piece of yourself that they tried to take. You're reminding yourself that your worth doesn't come from their attention or their approval. It comes from within. Let me ask you something. What could you build with all the energy you've been wasting on them? A new dream? A stronger sense of self? A life so full, so rich, so beautiful that their absence feels like a blessing, not a loss. Because that's what silence offers you, the chance to rebuild. To pour your energy into something that matters, something that gives back instead of taking and taking until there's nothing left. And here's the best part. They can't touch it. The peace you create in your silence, the strength you build in your solitude, it's untouchable. They can try to pull you back into their games, to rattle your confidence with their indifference, but it won't work, because you'll know the truth. Their silence doesn't define you. Your response to it does. So let me ask you one final question. What are you going to do with your silence? Are you going to waste it obsessing over their reaction, letting them live rent-free in your mind? Or are you going to use it as a foundation for something greater? The choice is yours. And when you choose yourself, when you choose to make your silence about healing and growth instead of pain and revenge, you'll find a freedom they can never take away. Remember this. Your silence is not empty. It's full. Full of your strength, your resilience, your potential. It's a declaration that says, I am enough. I am whole. I am free. And that's something no one, not even them, can ever take from you. Stay with me. There's more to uncover, and the storm you're becoming is only just beginning. 6. The storm they never saw coming. Let's talk about storms. They're unpredictable, aren't they? One moment the sky is calm, silent even, and then without warning the winds shift, the clouds gather, and the air crackles with a power no one can ignore. That's you. That's the transformation happening in your silence. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you figured out. But here's what they didn't see coming: the storm you're becoming. You see, when you go silent, they don't know what to do with themselves. Their entire game depends on your reaction. They're used to pulling the strings, used to seeing you chase after them, used to watching you bend and twist to fit the role, they've assigned you. But silence flips the script. It leaves them standing in the dark with nothing but their own insecurities to keep them company. Let me ask you something. What happens to a hunter when their prey stops running? They panic. They lose their sense of control because the game they were playing, the one that gave them their false sense of power, is suddenly meaningless. That's what your silence does to them. It strips away the illusion, forces them to confront the emptiness they've been trying so hard to avoid. But this isn't about them, is it? It's about you. It's about the power you're reclaiming in every quiet moment. They think your silence is weakness, but it's not. It's strength. It's self-control. It's the space where you stop reacting to their games and start rebuilding yourself. Every second you hold it, every time you resist the urge to reach out, you're growing stronger. And do you know what happens when you do that? You become unstoppable. Picture this. A stage empty and dark. The spotlight is gone. The audience has left. And they're standing there, alone, waiting for the applause that will never come. That's the reality of their so-called power when you step away. Without you, without your attention, their throne is nothing but an empty chair. And you're not backstage waiting in the wings. You've left the building entirely. But here's the twist. They'll never admit how much they need you. They'll act like they don't care, like your silence doesn't bother them. But deep down, it rattles them to their core. Because in the quiet, they're forced to face the truth. They weren't the ones in control. You were. Your reactions, your energy, your love, it was the fuel that kept their fire burning. And now that you've taken it away, they're left with nothing but the ashes. Let me ask you another question. What does it feel like to be the storm? To hold your ground, to stand tall, to let your silence speak louder than any words ever could. It feels powerful, doesn't it? Like you're finally in control of your own life, your own narrative. That's because you are. This is what Stoicism teaches us, to focus not on what others do or say, but on how we choose to respond. And your choice to go silent, it's not just a response, it's a revolution. Because here's the thing about storms, they don't just pass through unnoticed, they leave a mark. They clear away the debris, the clutter, the things that no longer serve a purpose. That's what your silence is doing. It's making space for something new, something better. It's showing them, and more importantly, showing yourself that you're not the person they thought they could control. But let's not sugarcoat it. Silence isn't easy. It's uncomfortable. It's heavy. It forces you to sit with your thoughts, to confront the pain they caused, to face the parts of yourself you've been ignoring. But that's where the magic happens. In the stillness, you start to see the truth. You start to realize that their games, their rejection, their indifference, none of it defines you. You do. So here's what I want you to remember. Your silence is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of your rise. It's the storm they never saw coming, the one they can't predict, the one they can't control. And when it passes, when the dust settles, you'll be standing there, stronger, brighter, more alive than ever before. If this message is resonating with you, if you can feel the power of your silence stirring something inside you, I want you to take action right now. Smash that like button and comment number 1 below to let the world know you're done playing their games. Show them you're ready to be the storm, the fire, the force they never saw coming. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and join this growing movement of resilient, unstoppable souls who are rising above the noise. Because this isn't just a message, it's a mission to reclaim our power, to build lives rooted in strength and self-respect, and to remind the world that silence isn't weakness, it's transformation. You're not just surviving this storm, you're becoming it. And trust me, the person you're becoming is more powerful than they ever imagined. Stay with me because we're not done yet. The best is yet to come. Let's rise together. 7. When they try to return. It always happens, doesn't it? Just when you've started to rebuild, just when the silence you've cultivated begins to feel like peace, they come back. Like a shadow creeping in at dusk, their presence returns, not because they've had some profound revelation about your worth, but because they feel the absence of your energy. They notice the void left behind, the space they used to fill with their games and manipulations, and now they want back in. But let's stop here for a moment and ask, why do they come back? What do they really want? It's not love that brings them back. It's ego. They miss the attention, the devotion, the constant reassurance you once gave them. You were their fuel, their source of validation, and now that it's gone, they're struggling. But let me ask you this. Where was this energy when you needed them most? Where were they when you were begging to be seen, to be valued, to be loved? Their silence was deafening then, wasn't it? And now, when your silence has taken center stage, suddenly they've missed you, changed, realized what they lost. How convenient. But here's the hard truth. People don't change overnight. They don't wake up one day and suddenly become everything you needed them to be. Their return isn't about giving, it's about taking your energy, your attention, your love. It's about filling the void they feel, not the one they created in you. And if you're not careful, you might find yourself slipping back into old patterns, giving them the pieces of yourself you fought so hard to reclaim. Let's pause here. Take a deep breath. Think about everything you've been through to get to this moment. The late nights spent questioning your worth, the pain of their silence, the endless efforts to prove yourself only to be met with indifference, and then the silence you chose. The silence that gave you back your peace, your strength, your power. Are you really willing to risk all of that for someone who only values you when it's convenient for them? Picture this. A moth circling a flame. It doesn't care about the beauty of the fire, the warmth it provides. It's drawn to the light because it's desperate for something to cling to. That's them. Their return isn't about admiring your strength or appreciating the person you've become. It's about their need to feed off your light. But here's the thing about moths and flames. The closer they get, the more they risk being burned. And you, my friend, are not a flame meant to be used. You are a fire meant to stand tall, strong, untouchable. Let me ask you something. What do you owe them? The person who ignored you, belittled you, left you questioning your own worth. What do they deserve from you now? The answer is simple: nothing. You owe them nothing. Not your time, not your energy, not your attention. You've given them enough, more than enough. And now it's time to keep those pieces for yourself. But I know what you're thinking. What if they've really changed? What if this time is different? That's the hope talking, the part of you that still wants to believe in their potential. And while hope is a beautiful thing, it's also dangerous when it blinds you to reality. People don't change because they miss you. They change because they've done the work, the hard, messy work of looking inward and becoming better. And unless you see clear, consistent actions to back up their words, their return is just another move in their game. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. Their discomfort isn't your responsibility. Their regret, their loss, their feelings of emptiness, they don't belong to you. They're a product of their own actions, their own choices. And the moment you start to feel responsible for making them whole again, you're stepping back into the very cycle you fought so hard to escape. So what do you do when they come back? You pause, you breathe, you ask yourself the questions that matter. Does their return align with the life I'm building? Have they truly earned a place in the peace I've created? Do they deserve the healed, powerful version of me? And if the answer is no, then you hold your ground. You let them stand at the door while you lock it for good, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of love for yourself, for the person you've become, for the life you're creating. Because here's the thing, your silence wasn't just about them. It wasn't a strategy to make them miss you or a punishment for their behavior. It was about you. It was about healing, growing, reclaiming your power. And now that you've found your strength, now that you've remembered who you are, you don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need them to tell you you're enough. You already know. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine them standing at your door, expecting you to open it, expecting the person they left behind. But when the door doesn't budge, when the silence they once used against you is now the silence that greets them. They're forced to face the truth. You've moved on. You've risen. And they're just a chapter in your story, not the author of it. So let me leave you with this. When they come back, it's not a test of your worth. It's a testament to the power you've always had. The power they didn't see. The power you've rediscovered in their absence. And the choice to let them back in. That's yours and yours alone. You don't need them to finish your story. You've already written the best parts on your own. Stay with me, because we're not done yet. There's more to uncover, more strength to claim. The storm you've become is only just beginning. 8. They think you're gone, but you're just getting started. They think you've disappeared, don't they? Faded into the background. They believe their silence was enough to break you, that you've crumpled under the weight of rejection. To them, you're just a shadow now, an afterthought, a name they can toss aside without consequence. But oh, how wrong they are. Because while they sit smugly on their fragile throne, convinced they've won, something extraordinary is happening. You're not gone. You're just getting started. Let's break this down. When they ignored you, dismissed you, or rejected you, they thought it was the final word. They assumed it would leave you shattered, unable to move forward. But what they don't realize is that silence, that rejection, wasn't the end of your story. It was the spark that lit the fire inside you, the catalyst for your transformation. And now, while they're busy basking in the illusion of their control, you're evolving into something they could never have anticipated. Picture this: a phoenix reduced to ashes. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than the remnants of something that once was. But to those who understand its power, the ashes are just the beginning. That's you. While they thought their silence had destroyed you, it was quietly giving you the space to rebuild, to rise, to become something stronger than you ever were before. Let me ask you something. Why do they think you're gone? Is it because you've stopped chasing them? Because you've stopped feeding their ego with your attention and effort? Or is it because they're too wrapped up in their own arrogance to see what's really happening? The truth is, they're not paying attention. They're too busy playing their games, too comfortable in their belief that they've won. But what they don't realize is that every moment of your silence, every second you spend focusing on yourself, is a step closer to becoming the person they'll regret losing. Here's the thing about people like them. They thrive on the idea that they're irreplaceable. They think their absence will leave a void in your life that can never be filled. But let me tell you something they don't understand. Your silence isn't emptiness. It's full. Full of the work you're doing to heal, the growth you're achieving, the strength you're reclaiming. And when you're ready to step back into the light, they won't know what hit them. Imagine their face when they see you again, not as the person they ignored, but as someone they no longer recognize. You've risen higher than they ever thought possible, created a life so rich, so full, so undeniably powerful that their absence feels like a gift, not a loss. Can you picture it? That moment when they realized the power they thought they had over you was an illusion all along. It's not about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. But let's get one thing clear. This isn't about revenge. Stoicism teaches us that true power comes from within, from mastering ourselves, not from seeking to control or hurt others. Your transformation isn't about making them see what they've lost. It's about creating a life so full of peace and purpose that their games no longer matter. You're not rising for them, you're rising for you. And while they sit there comfortable in their belief that you've disappeared, you're building something extraordinary. Every moment of silence, every ounce of energy you reclaim, every step you take toward your own goals is a reminder that you don't need them. You never did. Their absence isn't a void, it's a blessing. It's given you the space to become the storm they never saw coming. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine them years from now, looking back on this moment. They'll think about how they ignored you, how they dismissed you, how they assumed you'd never rise without them. And then they'll see who you've become. The strength, the confidence, the life you've built without their help, without their attention, without their validation. And in that moment, they'll realize the truth. They weren't the ones who broke you. They were the ones who set you free. So here's what I want you to do right now. If this message is hitting home, if you feel the fire in your chest, I want you to take a moment to own it. Smash that like button and comment number 1 below to declare that you're not gone, you're just getting started. Let the world know that their silence isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of your rise. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to join this movement of resilient, unstoppable souls who are rising above the noise. Together, we're rewriting the narrative, showing the world that silence isn't weakness, it's power. It's transformation. It's the calm before the storm. Because here's the truth. They thought you were gone, but you're not. You're growing, evolving, becoming. And when you step back into the light, it won't be for their benefit. It'll be for yours. This is your moment. This is your rise. Let's keep going, because the best is yet to come. The storm you're becoming is only just beginning. They never thought you'd make it this far, did they? They underestimated the fire in you, the resilience, the unshakable strength that's been building quietly beneath the surface. Their games, their silence, their rejection, they thought those things would hold you down. But all they've done is teach you how to rise. And now, as you stand at the edge of your transformation, it's time to take the final step. It's time to claim your power. Let me remind you of something simple but profound. You are not defined by their silence. You are not the person they left behind. You are not the pawn they once controlled. You are the storm. You are the crown. You are the author of your story, and the next chapter belongs to you alone. But how do you claim that power? How do you step into the life you've been working so hard to build? It starts with a choice. A choice to stop looking back, to stop wondering what could have been, to stop giving them space in your mind and heart. Because the truth is, they don't deserve it. They didn't deserve it then, and they certainly don't deserve it now. Ask yourself, what does it mean to truly rise? Is it about showing them what they've lost? Is it about proving them wrong? Or is it something deeper? Stoicism teaches us that true power lies not in the opinions of others, but in the mastery of ourselves. To rise is to let go, not just of them, but of the need for their validation. It's to find peace in knowing that your worth has never depended on anyone else. Picture this: a throne room, empty and quiet. No games, no noise, no distractions. Just you standing tall, wearing the crown you've earned through your silence, your growth, your perseverance. That's the life waiting for you on the other side of this moment. A life where you no longer chase, no longer beg, no longer settle for less than you deserve. But claiming your power isn't just about walking away. It's about walking towards something greater. What do you want to build? A dream you've been putting off. A version of yourself you've always imagined but never prioritized. This is your chance. This is your time. The energy you once wasted on their games is now yours to invest in yourself. So what will you create with it? Here's the secret they never wanted you to discover. You were never the problem. Their rejection wasn't about your inadequacy. It was about their inability to appreciate the gift of your presence. Their games weren't a reflection of your worth. They were a reflection of their insecurity. And now that you see the truth, you hold all the power. But power means nothing unless you use it. So here's what I want you to do. Take action. Not for them. Not to make them miss you, but for yourself. For the person you're becoming. For the life you're creating. Declare to the world and to yourself that you are done bowing to fragile thrones. You are done giving your power away. You are done waiting for someone else to see your value when you already know it. Smash that like button right now if this message resonates with you, and comment "I rise stronger" to claim your transformation. Let your voice echo, not as a plea for attention, but as a declaration of your strength. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button to join a community of resilient souls who are rising above the noise, who are turning pain into power, and who are choosing themselves over the games of others. Because this isn't just a message, it's a movement. A movement of people like you, people who refuse to be defined by rejection, who refuse to stay silent in the face of indifference. Together, we're rewriting the narrative, proving that silence isn't weakness. It's the foundation of something unshakable. Let me leave you with this. Your silence isn't the end, it's the beginning. The beginning of a life where your worth isn't questioned, where your power isn't borrowed, where your peace isn't negotiable. This is your rise. This is your moment. And trust me, the person you're becoming is more powerful than they ever imagined. Thank you for being here, for choosing yourself, for showing the world what true strength looks like. Let's rise together. The best is yet to come.